Okay, so this second part of the video is going to be where we're styling this form, making it look a bit nicer and making it responsive as well so that it looks good on different screens. One thing that I'm going to quickly do is I'm going to add a button now. A form isn't complete without a button to submit whatever information has been entered. So this button doesn't really have to be dynamic at all. It doesn't have to have any prop inputs. We're just going to say that the button is going to be of type submit. Now this means that when it's clicked, the form gets submitted, and we're going to have a function within the form. This is going to be what's connecting to Firebase and their database. That will execute. Now the reason why I prefer to do button type submit compared to a button on submit or on click a function there is because when you enter, then it will also submit the function. So we're just going to say call the button submit, and there's also going to be a on submit function here in the form. On submit, at the moment it's not going to do anything other than console.log. And we can check that, but to be honest, that's not the aim of this part of the video. The aim of this part of the video is to do some CSS. So we're going to start off by making some quick changes. So I want everything to have a padding of 0 and to have a padding or a margin of 0 by default. So margin, I'll just copy and paste this line here, and padding, so 0. We'll also say box sizing, border box. Box sizing border box, this is a very useful thing to have to put to everything, I find, at least, because when you're creating essentially when you're creating the dimensions of a div or text with margins and paddings and the width themselves, what box sizing does is it does the margins and paddings inside within the 500 pixel. Without box sizing, it does it outside. So if you say you've got a width container of 500 pixels and you say that it's got a padding of 100 pixels, the whole thing will then become 700 pixels wide. Whereas with border box, it will still be 500 pixels, just 100 pixels. So only 300 pixels are available. That's what the difference is, and I prefer border box styling. Right, what else are we going to have to do? So first of all, I'm just going to add a class name to this form, and it's just going to be called form underscore container. Now we'll just be using this index CSS file, but we can create some basic stuff for our form container now. So we'll just use the .form underscore container. What will we say? So we want it to have a background color. Now I'm going to make the body have a background color of antique white, and the form is going to have a background of just normal white. So it's going to be background white. What else do I want? I want it to have a width. I want it on mobiles, I want it to take most of the width of the screen. So we'll say I want it a width of let's say 2/3, so 66 VW, but I don't want it to be 66 view widths on a large screen because that will look too big. On a laptop or a computer, it will look too wide. So I want to have a max width of 500 pixels. 500 is quite a nice number. It's bigger than most phone screens, but it's pretty big for the user as well. So it's going to have a max width of 500 pixels. What else might we want? Well, let's have a look at what it's looking like on our website at the moment. So I just got the originally one, and I was like, oh wow, that's looking really good, but wrong one, mate. Right, okay, so this is what the site's looking like at the moment now. One thing that could be improved is this could be centered, so we'll do that. So we'll center. Apologies for this. I'm not very well prepared. This probably won't be edited out as well because I need someone to edit my videos. I'm not good at it. So we're going to center the div. So we'll say margin 0 auto. That will put it in the middle. Then I also want it so that it's responsive. So on multiple screens, it doesn't take up too much length. Sorry, on large screens, it doesn't have too much length. So we're actually going to also make this a flex container. So we're going to say display flex, and I want it to wrap. So I want to say this flex dash wrap. I want that to be wrap. Now, as you can see, this is happening. So still looks a bit messy. We're going to add some padding and some margins to sort this out. So firstly, because it's not very nice this being touched right up to the top, I'm going to add some margins and padding to the container itself. So we're saying margin will be 50 px. Oh, we've already got a margin on, so I'm going to change this to 50 pixels, and the sides will still be auto, which will just bring it down a bit more. We're also going to add some padding so that everything's a bit more, the insides are more spaced out as well. So padding, what have I got on this one? 5 and 7 pixels, I think. 20 pixels, 0. So that's just going to give it a bit more height and width here, and then we can add some margins to these parts themselves in order to make the lines more spaced out. Right, so really annoying. I just thought I'd started the video, but I never did. So I ran through the whole rest of the CSS. Unfortunately, didn't capture it, so we're gonna have to redo it again. A couple things that I added was I added the text area box just to show what it looks like. So to do that, you just go into the array of objects and just use type text area. This is what it looks like. We're going to add some stylings to it to make it look also a bit nicer. But let's focus back on the CSS. Fortunately, I just did Control Z on everything, so now I'm just going to be unshifting it all. And it's not letting me, so I am going to have to copy it all out. Right, okay. Right, I'm going to be copy and pasting it all out again. So the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the containers of these individual input fields. Now, remember when we're doing a loop, when we're doing mappings in our form, then we need to have an outermost mother container. This is the div container here. So each of these, as we can see now, inspect element is its own div. It's got its div there, and we're going to be adding some CSS stylings to that. So the ones that we're going to be adding are these here. Going the div inside form container, we want it to have a width of 56 VW, 56 view widths, whatever. That's because the width of our other thing is 66. Now we also wanted to have a max width of 240. Now the reason why I wanted to have a max width of 240 is because I want, at its largest, I want it to be able, I want you to be able to have two columns of input fields. So if we save that, that will just make everything a bit more space, and we've now got a bit more padding as well, which just makes it all be able to breathe a bit more. What else do we want? So we're also going to be adjusting, we're going to be adding some text as well, just some explanatory text. Now, I don't think it's going to let me do it. No, okay, it's like resaved it. So we're going to be adding another extra bit into our form quickly, and it's just this title and subtitle, which we're going to be inputting as props again to make it reusable. So title, subtitle, and it's going to have a container of form text. This will help with the CSS. As I've already had it written down, it's title and subtitle there. So this is my form. Like this video, please. Now, in terms of the styling for this particular part, we're going to be overriding some of the rules we've put in for before. As you can see, this doesn't look very nice at the moment, and that's because of the flex grid box that we're using, the flex display we're using. So what we're doing is we're using this important keyword to make it so that this CSS code is final. We want it to have a width of 100%, so it fills the whole container space, a max width of none. As you can see, the other containers have a max width of 240 pixels. We want it to have a text align center, so everything gets centered in the middle. We're also going to be adding some code for the input and text area themselves. So if I paste what I've got already, this width 100% is 100% of its parent container, the parent container being this div. So that's why 100% width is like 240, I think. A bit of padding as well, just to make it a bit more spacious, a bit more white space. If we take out the padding, then everything just becomes a lot more cramped. So we're just going to add a bit of padding in there to make it a bit better. Also, one thing that I don't like about this text area is it's not very tall. So we're just going to add a bit of code to make it higher, increase the height. That will also increase the submit button's height. We'll sort that out later on. That's okay. And we'll sort that out now, actually. I mean, now the place that I got the button is from a really great website called Free CSS Text Copy Paste, whatever. So I just got it from this website. I'm going to be I'll show you the website if you haven't seen it before. But yeah, obviously I made my own kind of slight adjustments to make it suitable for the Flex container itself. But this is what it looks like. This has made me realize that actually we need to have align items in our parent container. Align items means that everything gets aligned on the middle if we're using align item center on the x-axis. So if we now make this change in size, as you can see, it's nice and responsive, looks really good, looks all even and symmetrical. One thing that I added to the button was I added this margin 0.77 pixels. Now, the reason why I did that is if I take it off, you'll see the button goes all funny and just looks really ugly. The reason why it does that is because we're using justify content space evenly. So the space in this row of the Flex container is evenly spaced, but it doesn't look very nice. So as you can see, when we combine it, still looks pretty horrible. So the way that I went around this is pretty much through trial and error. I knew that margin and changing the margin would allow you to do it, would allow this to be kind of shifted out of the way, and 77 was the golden number that I stumbled upon. So that makes it all look a bit centered and in line at the moment, and then it goes into this. So yeah, that's the CSS complete. I don't think there's anything else to add. Yeah, there is. So yeah, let me show you this website. It's called Copy and Paste CSS. We're going to add a bit of styling to this form, to the actual container itself, because it doesn't look very nice. It looks all right, but it could look better. So we're actually just going to add, first of all, a little bit of a border radius. Yeah, this is the point where I realized that I'm not recording in the other video. So I've got border radius, we'll say, of 7 pixels, because 7's a good number, been a good number for me today. And we're going to say it's going to get a bit of box shadow, which we're going to get from this website. So I'm just going to go to box shadows, and I'm liking this Fluent UI by Microsoft. I'm just going to copy and paste it in. And if we check out the page, there we go. Looks nice and 3D, adds that little 3D dimension without with. So yeah, that's the CSS done. I hope you found this interesting. Next video I'm going to do is going to be about the Firebase and connecting it to the Firebase. So yeah, stay tuned for that.